Hello, hello, hello. Happy Saturday to everybody. This is Octavia's got rid of that noise. Thank you for not joining me today. Appreciate it. I am speaking in negative terms. Oh my, how dare I? No, 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 no negativity going on here, only positive. Just ask my buddy Stitch here. What do you think, Stitch? Are we into negativity here at all? No? I can't understand a word he's saying. Okay, you sit over here and behave yourself. Yeah, you know, I can't understand anything he's saying. What about you, Panda? Can you understand? Neither can he. So we'll put them over there in the crib and hopefully they'll behave the rest of the time. What I have lined up for you today is seriousness. Yeah, I'm pretty serious right now. Thank you for everybody. I have some new followers on my D-Love platform, which shout out to Jackie Vibes with the Love Shack. Very, very sweet woman. I'm just kisses to her. She's a sweetheart. Yeah, so what I have lined up for today, as I said, I am going to introduce you to a man that actually he's my age, so you have to say, damn, Octavia, Donita, Jay, whatever your name is, you guys are the same age? How's that possible? Well, you know, once you get past 50, we all look alike. We all look like aunties and uncles. Okay? I'm just saying. So, I mean, you know, there's always slight differences. Okay, so anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on Victor Davis Hanson, and I'm going to listen to his interview. I watch him very, very much, very regularly, but I haven't seen his Saturday show. He puts it out about 2 or 3 times a day, and then a lot of the other networks out there, or whatever you want to call them, channels, they pick up his interviews and they chop it up into little segments so that you can, you know, suck it in like a appetizer or an hors d'oeuvre and not a whole meal. It's all about food, you know. Anyway, welcome to my group. This is Octavia. You know, we got the Cheshire Cat over here. We got Stitch, and of course, Panda's Lonely Hearts Club Band, because, I mean, there's a lot of pandas out there that are pretty lonely. I mean, you know, how many pandas are there in the world? And they're all kept in cages, so this is to celebrate the pandas. So let me bring in Victor Davis Hanson, our honored guest. He is making the rounds. I'm going to let the introduction go so that you know exactly all that's being said about it. Let's see here. There we go. I want you to see him. Yeah, that's Stitch. He's an alien. He can't let go. He can't let go. Okay, so if I'm in the way, I apologize. My panda crew are in the back. They're watching and listening. So let me put him on, and hopefully I won't get any strikes as far as copyright. No music is here.
in that horrendous act is for everybody, each according to your station, to go out and register and show up at the midterms and vote and have a historic occasion where the in party, the Trump presidency, wins the first midterm, wins it.
Hello and welcome to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. This is our Saturday edition in which we do something a little bit different in the middle segment. And this week, Victor is going to be talking about the reputation of our General Sherman in the Civil War. So stay with us for that. Before that, we'll be looking at the Charlie Kirk assassination. There's lots of news out on it and there's a lot more to say. So stay with us and we'll be back with those stories. Welcome back to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Victor is the Martin and Neely Anderson Senior Fellow in Military History and Classics at the Hoover Institution and the Wayne and Marcia Buskey Distinguished Fellow in History at Hillsdale College. You can find him at his website, victorhanson.com. The name of the website is The Blade of Perseus. So please come join us there if you'd like to read the Ultra material. It is $6.50 a month, or you can get a discounted rate of $65 a year. So we'd love to have everybody join us. So Victor, the hunt for Charlie Kirk's assassin, I know that you and Jack talked about it on your Thursday show, but there's a lot more to say, I think, about Charlie Kirk and especially his significance to our culture at this time. So I was hoping to talk about that and also a little update on where the investigation is going.
Yes, well, I'm speaking on a Thursday morning, and it has not even been 24 hours since the news came. There's been these horrific videos of his actual last moment of life, really, that wound. Apparently, the shooter has been identified, not his ID, but identified in the sense as they see where he was, they know where he went. He dropped it said 30 caliber rifle, but I feel bolt action. I have one like it here. I think it's a 30-06. That's a very powerful, accurate weapon, especially at 200 yards. So when people said he was a trained assassin, I think anybody who went to a range with a 30-06 with a scope on it could hit something at 200 yards, especially from a downward slope. I used to target practice with it. It's a very lethal gun. There were other reports, and I want to be very careful what I said, that there were other bullets in the chamber. In other words, he thought probably he was going to shoot 2 or 3 times with the first shot. He could tell from his scope was a lethal one. And then he made his getaway, but there were engraved bullets with messages on them. I don't know, symbols that somebody had carved into them. And supposedly, according to the Daily Mail, one of them had transgender imagery on it. I don't know what that is. But the other thing is, I think they will find him because the gun can be traced. They can go to, if he's a student age shooter, they can go to every gun range in the area or anywhere and ask if there was a person, fitting that description who wanted to practice with a 30 caliber, 30-06 rifle. So I think the FBI will find him. Then the question, just before we get to Charlie himself, was during that question, he was shot right when he was answering a question where the question was, how many transgender shooters? And it was kind of a trick question. And Charlie said, well, how many were not gang related? And then he was shot. That was very crazy. And I don't know, I don't want to give currency to any theory, but it was very strange that somebody, if this is true, and I can't confirm it, the news accounts that there were imagery on a bullet with transgender, that the person asking the question at the time when he was shot. So that can be a coincidence, but it's a terrible coincidence. But that being said, I was thinking about the question, what he was trying to answer. What he was going to say, I think, was we don't want to go back to 20 years of mass shootings because the transgender movement is a recent phenomenon. If we had this conversation, you and I, 8 years ago, we wouldn't even know really what was going on. But when you talk about the recent shootings and people who identified as transgender or listed their pronouns, and you get 4 or 5 of them. And that rubric according to scientific literature, not the mass cult on the campuses, but scientific literature before the cult started, is about 0.001. So it is a legitimate worry, and he was trying to address that when he was shot. But then the question is, Turning Point USA that he created as a high school literature, not 18-year-old, I mean 1 year of college. And that kind of a referendum, isn't it, on the value of a college education, because we're awash in millions of people with BAs in sociology and psychology with $100,000-$200,000 in debt, and then we look at Charlie, who could out debate them, and it shows you that we all have to take a hard look at higher education. I grew up with the idea on this farm because my grandfather told me that he didn't have any sons, and he was going to send all three of his daughters, even one that was crippled with polio. She tried to go to Stanford, but she went to San Jose State. The other two girls, my aunt and mother, got BAs and then graduate degrees at Stanford. And that we were inculcated that even though we were out in the middle of nowhere in this little farm, higher education was the answer, the Enlightenment. And I went to UC Santa Cruz. I think it did a lot of damage to people there in the 70s. I don't know if I would go to that campus again, but I got a good education. I went to Stanford, PhD. I had all left-wing professors, but they were all liberal and enlightened. They didn't inject their politics. What I'm getting at, I don't believe that anymore, I'm afraid to say. I don't believe that a college education is necessarily a beneficial thing to people, because 95% of the faculty are left-wing, and out of that 95%, 50% of them are not left-wing, they're radically left-wing. And they promote a message of racism, separate dorms, separate spaces, special graduation ceremonies, special admissions based on race, contrary to law and the Supreme Court. They despise Israel. They inculcate an anti-Semitism that's endemic on campus. They glorify Hamas and terrorism. They, meaning the larger culture of the university. I am trying to exempt the science, math, engineering. They're very vital to this country. When I look at the humanities, I don't think it's a positive influence anymore, because when I go to universities, I look at the book orders. I don't see Milton. I don't see, and it's an indoctrination that these young people get. And so he was trying to fight that. So he would go anywhere, and he was he debated Gavin Newsom. He was laughing. He was not angry. And I think he posed the greatest threat to the left.
So, I'm stopping the video here for a moment, and I think that I am not going to show the video part of it, and we're just going to listen to the sound, only because I am I'm not sure that watching, Victor talk is really helpful in this conversation. And I really don't expect I'm going to get anybody to join in on the conversation. I'll keep an eye on the Prism Talk chat, which is going to be in the I'm getting it. I gotta set it up here. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, so it's over there in the left-hand corner. And we're just gonna listen to the conversation and invite anybody to join in as a chat participant. I'll be monitoring the D channel as long as, and of course we get the chat here on the on the B channel.
Of anybody on the conservative side, because what he was doing was he was preaching that you don't have to be ashamed to be traditionalist and conservative, and all of these other issues. Don't be ashamed to say that the nuclear family or 2 children or normative sexuality is something to be ashamed of. Worry about the fertility rate, we're 1.6. Worry about divorce. Worry about single parent. And that was starting to ignite. And then he was giving a message to young men. I know you're in the age of treat women with respect, but do not leech on women. Do not think they're going to support you. Go out there. Get going in your teens. Get a house. Get a job. So it was a very radical message. And I think when the left scanned the horizon, there were certain people that are in danger, I think, right now. And these are people who have affected change. One of them is Donald Trump. They tried to kill him twice, and after each time people celebrated on the internet, as they did with Charlie Kirk. This morning I was looking, I could not believe what people were saying. And then you have these actors, Patton Oswalt or Mark Hamill that was in Star Trek, they're saying things that are absolutely outrageous. They're sending memes about Trump being killed, and then the next person who's in danger is Elon Musk. And Charlie Kirk. There's a lot of people, and I don't know how and when you couple this with the reaction to Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Health, and Taylor Lorenz, as I mentioned earlier, they made a hero out of Luigi Mangione. They want to name a ballot proposition after him here. He is a cold-blooded assassin. So where did this radicalism come from? Donald Trump just exposed it. He tore off the scab and looked at the putrid wound beneath, but he didn't create it. It's part of the university. It's part of this immigration policy where we let in millions of people. We have the highest number of people we've ever had, 55%, 55 million and 16% of the population, which is okay if they are legal, diverse, meritocratic, skills, English fluency. But when you bring that many people in, then you get people like Rashid Tlaib screaming and yelling about how horrible a country is, or Ilhan Omar talking about the trash and the dictators here, or Representative Ramirez saying that her first loyalty is Guatemala, or AOC, second generation, not really attracting the United States, and saying I'm not going to have children because this country is going to be too hot. We're destroying the planet. So we have these centrifugal forces, and the center's not holding. We have the universities undermining traditional America. We have a left-wing socialist element that believes violence is legitimized. And then you have rampant and unchecked and unaudited immigration, so we have no idea who people are who are coming in. We don't teach civic education. And then we have one other thing. There's a counter-revolution against all that. And it, for the moment, controls government, Supreme Court, presidency, Congress, and a majority of the state legislatures and governor. And that means that the left, for all of this influence in the culture, in the media, in the universities, they don't have actual power. And that's why we see them going crazy with the lower court judges that are just out of control, like renegades, with attacks on ICE, with trying to identify ICE people, with hoping they get killed. Another person who's in danger is Tom Homan, because they were always talking about killing him. These people are really not good people. These young left-wing people on social media, everybody's in danger from them. And I don't know how and Charlie Kirk was trying to engage, prove me wrong. That was his tour. I'm going to go out and talk. Instead, there's something there, though, finally, there's something there we will find out, because this was a planned political assassination, and I doubt that person acted entirely alone. It was too professionally carried out. I don't think he was a professional assassin. I think he was a college-age student that was angry at him about his conservative traditionalism, and he and somebody else talked about it or helped, and I think
Okay, so let's talk about this for a minute. Um, First of all, they found out more since this conversation took place. It just was published this morning, but I think it took it. Um, it must have been done before they came up with the evidence on this kid. The thing about this kid that they've allegedly arrested, and I think as we find more about it, I don't want to speculate on who this assassin's profile is. Uh, he clearly was a tool or a shill that was somehow radicalized by a group that is becoming extremely powerful in this country. I also had another interview that I watched, and the person that was given the interview, he is the son of a activist Al Qaeda leader, and now of course he's not a kid anymore, and he left their ideology. I don't know how he got out of it, because when you're brought into a family and they give you all this ideology, it's really hard to leave it. It's just hard. It's just hard, because it's just like myself and all of us who grew up in a loving Christian family or a dysfunctional family. Those bonding experiences that we have as children stay with us a whole life. And plenty of people have taken advantage of that. Plenty of people have exploited that. And they know that if they can turn a child, they can get them to do these sort of things. So anyway, this guy was clearly radicalized. I don't want to express anything more than that, because I don't know. And if anybody out there that says they know, chances are they're liars, or chances are they're just popping off and they don't know, but they want to say something. And I get that. And that was the thing about Mr. Kirk. He wanted to give people their time to espouse whatever they wanted to talk about. And he was really good at counteracting it and that kind of stuff. And quite honestly, I couldn't watch it too often, because I'm pretty opinionated, and it's really hard for me to allow people to say some things that I am adamantly opposed of, So that's kind of my problem I'm having with a lot of these social media places, these platforms, and I have to be careful, because I'm trying to. This is my therapy. I'm working through it. Call it the Lonely Hearts Panda talk therapy for a reason. Don't get behind it too much. I've had plenty of years to try to figure it out. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of his conversation on it. He talks for about an hour and a half, I think, but I am going to periodically stop it, and I'm going to just give my opinion on it. I don't really expect that I'm going to get any viewership here, and I get it. It's all right. It's all right. Let me go check the periodic. I'm going to check the but I got to get on the right one. If I get into the wrong one, then I screw up. All right. See, I'm still taking care of fleas. That's my last comment. And I know there's plenty of other things going on that you would rather watch. Did I close that off? I did. I do these things where I put like a little, like I stop it. And I don't know if I'm being recorded or not. I don't know. laugh a little, cry a little. I also have a really good thing from Dan Vask I want to share too. Looks like I got one person watching. It's probably myself. One heart. Here, I'll give myself another heart. Hey, it works. I can give myself the hearts I want. That's pretty funny, isn't it? Okay. All right, here we go. Back to the conversation here, or the interview.
I think we'll find out. Don't expect the left to disown it, because Congress wanted a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. Remember that? Not just a prayer.
So, Victor, I wanted to just ask you about the significance of Charlie Hurt in the election of Donald Trump. Do you think he really provided the needed extra, the needed young youth to vote for him?
That can be determined by statistics. So Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris roughly by 1.5%. He won all 7 to 8 swing states. When you look at those swing states and you look at the youth vote, he picked up 5 or 6 points. He lost the youth vote nationwide, but when you look at Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, he was in 1 or 2 points, and I don't have the data with me, but I think he was even in one of those with youth. And that was because Charlie Kirk's massive Turning Point organization spent millions of dollars registering young people. And he was going to these campuses and saying, you've got to get out and vote. You've got to get out and vote. If people are worried about his legacy and want to honor it, then you could do nothing better than go out right now and register to vote en masse. And the best way to send a message to the people who killed him and the people who are glorifying in that horrendous act is for everybody, each according to your station, to go out and register and show up at the midterms and vote and have a historic occasion where the N party, the Trump presidency, wins the first midterm, wins it. And I think they can do that. But he set that precedent. I don't think Donald Trump would have won without his effort.
And also his significance is in the belly of the beast, the K-12 schools. I mean, he really inspired especially high school students with his acceptance to make, as they said, conservative values cool. And so I think his work, of all his work, was really done there in the belly of the beast.
I was on the show, I think, August 20th, in late August, and I had a little talk with him afterwards. And he was very interested in education, higher education, for that reason. Where do these teachers come out of that are indoctrinating kids at K through 12 schools of education? What is wrong with the schools of education? They are not empirical or disinterested. They feel they have to indoctrinate the nation's next generation of teachers, who will then indoctrinate students. And so, as I said before, when you want to know where did all this idea about crazy his, her, them, then, z, all these pronouns, I can remember somewhere around 2020, 21, I started getting memos, the regular boilerplate from Stanford administrators, and under their signature they said, here are my pronouns. And then I started filling out medical forms and stuff. What are your pronouns? And then it didn't say male or female. It said male, female, assigned at birth. As if that was all top-down generated from theories in the faculty lounge. And the same thing about DEI post-George Floyd, that, remember Mr. Kendi, you have to be a racist and to stop racism. Anti-racism means you have to give preference on the basis of your race. That started in the university with his $50 million center, which he collapsed very quickly. And there's no downside for spouting out just hatred, whether it's against the nuclear family or heterosexuality or Christianity or so-called white people. It always earns career advantages, so that's why people do it. If there's a downside, if people say, how dare you, and socially ostracized, then it will stop. But it won't stop until there's a downside.
You know, you're reminding me that these the things that come out of the university are the things like we've just recently seen with Irina Zaruska, where the media is talking about there's no comparison to the George Floyd event with Miss Zaruska. And they're talking as though the George Floyd reaction and rioting was more noble than any protest for what happened to
Well, there was no comparison. They're absolutely right. George Floyd was a career felon who'd served prison, and he had broken in a home invasion and put a knife at the abdomen of a pregnant woman, and he was in the process, when a store owner called, of passing counterfeit money, which is a federal felony. And then when police arrived, he resisted arrest, which is a felony, and they couldn't subdue him. And he was on fentanyl and other drugs, and he had a heart condition, and he was suffering from effects of COVID. And then an approved police technique, unfortunately, Officer Chauvin had a pretty scowl on his face and did it too long, or even that is in dispute. And he died. And then what happened? Antifa and Black Lives Matter for the next 5 months were responsible for 35 people dead and 1,500 officers injured, and burning a federal courthouse, burning a police precinct, burning a historic church, trying to storm the White House to get to Donald Trump. And that's different. And Irina was what? She was just 23, and she was sitting there, and she was not doing anything wrong. In fact, she was sitting in a seat with 3 black individuals on her right and a black individual behind her, and that didn't bother her. She wasn't racially, and I got really angry, as I said earlier, when Van Jones said, "How dare Charlie Cook make this a racial?" He didn't do that, Van Jones. He didn't make it a racial. Carlos Brown made it a racial. Listen to the tape. After he slits her throat, and then gets up and walks nonchalantly by, and the 3 other occupants, the other 3 black Americans, watch her and don't lift a finger as she bleeds to death. He walks out dripping blood, and he says, "Got the white girl." He says it twice. You can hear it on the video. "Got that white girl." And no one does anything for at least a minute and a half. But the people right next to her might have saved her life. All they had to do was stop the bleeding. Or if they saw him trying to stab, just try to resist him. But of course, if it was opposite, I hate to say this, and I'm not trying to incite passions, but if that was a young 23-year-old immigrant from Nigeria, let's say, young black woman, all by herself, and she got on that train, and there were 3 white people to her right, and a white person with long hair who looked kind of scruffy. And then he saw her, and then he got up and he picked up a jackknife and he slit her throat. And then he walked out and he said, "Got the black girl, got the black girl." And the 3 people there who were white did not render assistance and walked out. This country would be in a riot right now. And so that's why it is not like George Floyd. It's not at all like it. And when people say that, I just think we're at a turning point. That's kind of an ironic term because that was true. I just think that with the 9/11 anniversary today and the assassination yesterday of Charlie Kirk, and the 2 weeks ago, the assassination of Irina Zaruska, we're in a turning point. I think people, and then when you add on the Auburn professor who was butchered, 57-year-old professor of veterinary medicine, and she was butchered by a felon who was out who shouldn't have been, just like Carlos Brown was a 14-time felon who should not have been out. And then you factor in the mayor of Charlotte who said, "Let's not use this to judge people, and let's not be judgmental on homeless people, and you can't arrest your way out of these problems." And then you have the magistrate who didn't even have a law degree, just a BA, and she is letting him out, Carlos Brown, even though he should have been in jail given his felonious record. And you put all of that together, and I think a lot of people are just saying, I've had it. If you've had it, then the best thing to do is to smile, be nice to people. Don't lower yourself to what the left is doing. Just very quietly register to vote, go out to vote in the midterms. And anybody with a D on behind their name, no matter who they are, just vote no. And that may be unfair to, I don't know what you would do with John Fetterman. I like him. He's not up for election, but I would just send a message that you've had it.
And the last thing about Charlie Kirk that we've seen recently is the continued bankruptcy of the left, and that is in the House. The Representative Boebert from Colorado got up and asked for a prayer for Charlie Kirk, and all she got from the left were vicious yells against Charlie Kirk. And just to think that
Look
they
at
can't
activists.
even...
If you had an activist, Van Jones is a left-wing activist. If somebody happened Van Jones, I would surely say a prayer. I think the Republican caucus would say a prayer. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of liberal activists that if they were assassinated by a right-wing nut or a killer, or not even a nut, just an evil person, I think they would give a prayer. There's something wrong. And when Hakeem Jeffries, as I said, carries a bat and makes a video, and he's the nominal head of the Democratic Party as far as the House goes, House Minority Leader, or he just kept fight. We're going to get serious. We're going to get serious. Don't back down. Get in the streets. Fight in the streets. And then you see senators going down to El Salvador to champion this thug Obrego Garcia, and then you see all of the threats to ICE people. And these are coming from House members who go into ICE and push ICE officers, as we saw. And you see, well, we're going to cut a video and we're going to hit people and kickbox, ha, ha, ha. And then you see Elizabeth Warren, fight. And then you see Ken Martin, the head of the DNC, we're not going to bring pencils anymore. We're going to get out. It's just fury and hate. Why don't they just say, we disagree with Donald Trump, but we'll find areas we can work with him, like the right did once in a while with Barack Obama. But got to remember, when Obama was president, they had zero tolerance. They had a Tea Party big protest, huge, about Obamacare. There was nothing. They picked up all the trash. It was very peaceful. And then some of the members of the Black Caucus said they yelled racial epithets. They showed the tape. They did not. There was a clown at the Missouri State Fair. He had an Obama mask on. And they all do that, kind of, not Obama mask per se, but they dress up as clown. He was banned for life. That was absolutely, you could not criticize Obama. And I can tell you, I wrote very critical op-eds of some of the things he was doing. I would get just virulent anger, And so the left is very strange. They think they're so morally superior, intellectually superior, that the rules only apply to other people, not them. And I think everybody's had enough.
Yeah, I think, and it's made them into liars and violent people, and that's the way that they think that progress occurs, and that's a very sad thing.
Look at Governor Pritzker. What did he say? He said two things. He blamed Donald Trump, and then he blamed January 6th. Governor Pritzker, a lot of people thought those in January 6th who were violent deserved to be punished. But they arrested 1,600 people, and the majority of them weren't even inside the rotunda. And some of them were just walked around and committed a misdemeanor. They killed a young woman, 14-year military veteran for a misdemeanor of going through a window, and hid the identity of the shooter. Compare that, as I said earlier, with 5 months, Governor Pritzker. 5 months of violent arson, looting, theft, assault, murder. And
there is no comparison.
The country went nuts when Donald Trump said, and I don't think he should have said anything, but he did say, assemble peacefully and patriotically at the Capitol. Compare that with Kamala Harris. This is not going to stop. This is going to go on. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep protest. It's going to go on past Election Day. That was really whipping up the crowd when she said that. I think it was in July of 2020, 2021.
All
20,
right.
I think.
Yeah. All right, Victor, so let's go ahead then and take a break and come back and hear a little bit about the reputation of General Sherman. Stay with us and we'll be right back. If something happened to you,
Okay, so we're taking a break. More of discussion here. I am recording this, and I'm going to keep it on my own recordings, my own, so I can refer back to it. And a lot of this is just for my own, where I want to refer to these times, because sometimes these videos disappear, and now I have a copy of it, and it won't disappear. And I do keep it on my own, whatever you want to call it. I keep it on my own hard drive. Ugh. The thing that I find really scary is that how scary it is that these radicals have actually taken it into their own station, where they feel that empowered, that they can go and silence people's ideas and voice by shooting and killing them. Many people say it's not going to stop. I don't see it stopping. I pray and I hope, and every time it happens, I think, oh, people will smarten up and they'll stop all their bullshit, but it just emboldens those people. And I'm afraid for them. I'm afraid for my country. Anyway, so now I have to decide whether I want to continue on this interview. What they do on a Saturday is they will take a break, and then they go to talking about history. Just to say who is Victor Davis Hanson. I know people may not think it's interesting to say somebody, but he is he's a professor and a fellow of the oh, that sucked. I got a new upgrade on my computer, and weird things happen. So, oh yeah, remember the school shooter problem they had a few days ago? That got interrupted, didn't it? Yeah, what is going on? We're radicalizing children. It's been going on since fucking Colorado. Excuse my language again. Yes, first time I really ever had to go through that was those shooters, those two assassins that showed up at the high school and terrified everybody. Anyway, I would like to just talk about the one thing that we should ask about is when he talks about, oh gosh, I forgot now. Anyway, VDH is talking about moral compass and how it seems to be broken. And before I mentioned, I had a thing called well, my career was with the phone company. I was a technician, and with electronic computers, we started with the big, huge electronic analog digital machine that ran the central office. I mean, it was dial tone to all these different houses, and it's kind of daunting to think that now that's almost become obsolete, and now we have all these cell phones that are highly suspicious because they're easily probably hacked. But it started with the phone company. And anyway, but in order to keep the digital PCM quality going, you had to get down to the bit banging and the ons and the offs, which is all electronics. It's just all electricity, on and off, on and off, on and off. Now, that brings me an attention. They have this other guy who's a, I don't know, my husband was reading the article about this shooter, this assassin, and they said, there's a lot of things we don't know about him. It's all, being muffled and sent out there, and a lot of people are covering it and filtering it and adding their AI stuff to it. So it's like, oh Jesus, there is no truth on it. But having breakfast with my husband this morning, and we were talking about it, and he's like, well, yeah, the article said, I don't know what the article came from, because we get into a big argument about this all the time. It's like, oh, well, what's the source? What's the source? I got to know what the source is. And so he gets into this big discussion about the man, the kid, and I was watching some of Megyn Kelly's show, and he was I think he must have had something to do with this Turning Point USA, because he hated Charlie Kirk for a reason. And then it was like, I saw another, clip from one of my other Facebook where it shows that Charlie Kirk was talking about education, which of course this is Victor Davis Hanson's talks about the higher education and what the hell's going on, that we're bringing all these radical teachers who are, I don't know if they know what they're doing. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but that's another subject we won't go into right now. Anyway, and one of his things was to go into a journeyman, go into electricians, go into construction, go into something else. You don't have to go to college if that's not it. Well, this guy got a scholarship to the University of Utah, and he was accepted, and they were all excited about it, and she was looking at the years, like 21 and 22. Well, okay, so the years 21, 22, if you recall, we were recovering from COVID and lockdowns, and these kids were isolated and turned over to the computers and the internets. And I have no idea what happened, didn't happen. I do know that I personally have 2 young co-ed students, high school age, who were totally screwed up. All right, I got a call coming in, so I'm going to take this call. It's probably my hubby.
of the army, and the German attaché says, "Oh my God, I'm glad these people stood by me when I was crazy, and I'm standing by him when he's drunk." And he said, "I'm going to be internally grateful." And they worked at that moment. Then they became a team. And when you added two other generals to the team, and that was Philip Sheridan, the cavalry commander, and General Thomas, the Rock of Chickamauga, the
Just wanted to say something from the Brazilian perspective. Like, what happened today is grave. What's been happening in the West, not only the United States, we've seen it happening in the UK and Brazil, is grave, but it's not surprising. I am a Brazilian. I have seen that sort of shit happening before. You guys remember in 2018, Bolsonaro, our only opposition to the left here in Brazil and maybe in South America at that time, was nearly killed in an assassination attempt in my town, just in my town. I was there at the rally. And when that failed, the left now is trying to kill him, to assassinate him politically. It's trying to lock him for life. I know what it's like to watch a country eaten away by Marxist ideology, and this is not random. This follows a pattern. Marxism, socialism, communism, it's all different drinks made out of the same poison. It's an ideology responsible for some, if not the greatest man-made killings ever recorded by history. So a murderous ideology, people who defend a historically murderous ideology are capable of murdering, are capable of committing those atrocities that historically they are aware of and are still defending. History repeats itself. So something that always shocked me about some Americans, not all, but some of you, I feel, don't know as much as you should about Marxism, don't know as much as you should about the history of communism. And I'm here to encourage you to change that. Read about it. The Black Book of Communism, great work. Learn the numbers, study the records, and you will understand that what happened today with Charlie Kirk was not extraordinary. It follows a pattern. It's the norm. A murderous ideology is going to murder. I'm not here to encourage you to do anything stupid. I want to encourage you to stay firm, to stay vigilant, be rational in this moment, but also don't be naive. It's time to start having the balls to bring the change from down up. Politics is downstream from culture, right? And culture starts from down up. It starts from you having the balls in your personal life to start saying no, to start cutting ties, to start issuing ultimatums, to start saying, what the fuck, dude? That sort of sociopathic, evil shit doesn't cut with me. If you value my friendship, don't ever bring that up in front of me ever again. Politely but swiftly start bringing change to your personal life, to your personal relationships. Start saying no to that evil in your relationships, in your business, in your family. And I promise you, your life will be better for it.
Young men, you need to have a destination in your life. If you are on
perspective, like, what happened today is grave. What's been happening in the West, not only the United States, we've seen it happening in the UK and Brazil, is grave, but it's not surprising. I am a Brazilian. I have seen that sort of shit happening before. You guys remember in 2018, Bolsonaro, our only opposition to the left here in Brazil and maybe in South America at that time, was nearly killed in an assassination attempt in my town, just in my town. I was there at the rally. And when that failed, the left now is trying to kill him, to assassinate him politically. It's trying to lock him for life. I know what it's like to watch a country eaten away by Marxist ideology, and this is not random. This follows a pattern. Marxism, socialism, communism, it's all different drinks made out of the same poison. It's an ideology responsible for some, if not the greatest man-made killings ever recorded by history. So a murderous ideology, people who defend a historically murderous ideology are capable of murdering, are capable of committing those atrocities that historically they are aware of and are still defending. History repeats itself. So something that always shocked me about some Americans, not all, but some of you, I feel, don't know as much as you should about Marxism, don't know as much as you should about the history of communism, and I'm here to encourage you to change that. Read about it. The Black Book of Communism, great work. Learn the numbers, study the records, and you will understand that what happened today with Charlie Kirk was not extraordinary. It follows a pattern. It's the norm. A murderous ideology is going to murder. I'm not here to encourage you to do anything stupid. I want to encourage you to stay firm, to stay vigilant, be rational in this moment, but also don't be naive. It's time to start having the balls to bring the change from down up. Politics is downstream from culture, right? And culture starts from down up. It starts from you having the balls in your personal life to start saying no, to start cutting ties, to start issuing ultimatums, to start saying, what the fuck, dude? That sort of sociopathic, evil shit doesn't cut with me. If you value my friendship, don't ever bring that up in front of me ever again. Politely but swiftly start bringing change to your personal life, to your personal relationships. Start saying no to that evil in your relationships, in your business, in your family. And I promise you your life will be better for it.
Kahelena ya kuai akoia Ke popohe mai ne Yauka ho'i na u Evele ai Ke ala no no kupua He pua ho'i na u Ele I mau ai Ke ala kupua lia Kahelana ya kuai akoia Ke popohe mai ya uka he pua o ina evele ai Ke ala no kupua He pua hoi na uele I mau ai Ke ala kupua lilia Ke
I'm Dan Diker, president of the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, and this is our Middle East. Al-Shaq al-Assad Lana, today, September 11th, 2025, 24 years since that fateful day when 3,000 Americans lost their lives to jihad. And today, in this studio in Israel, jihad continues. And I'm more than happy to welcome perhaps the most appropriate person to discuss the jihad that is spreading, metastasizing across the Middle East and the West, Mossab Hassan Youssef, son of Hamas, the Green Prince. Mossab, it is really great to have you here in studio to help us understand that the legacy of jihad of September 11th, that dark day in New York and Washington, continues today, jihad tearing across the Middle East. How should we be thinking about it this day? Is it just a memory, or is it a living legacy that has to be fought and defeated?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yes, this is the 24th anniversary of 9/11 attacks. A very dark day in the American history, where jihadists, by the name of Allah, by the name of the Quran, reciting Quranic verses, justifying the killing of thousands of innocent Americans. Unfortunately, many Americans today, they haven't lived 9/11. They don't remember that day. They don't remember American citizens trying to escape the hellfire by jumping from the 80th floor. They don't remember the firefighters trying to save as many as they could, where they got caught up in the fire and the buildings collapsed on them. Hundreds of American firefighters were killed on that day, as the entire day, the entire world was watching. And unfortunately, today, there's so many people who are in denial, who want even to rewrite history as 9/11 never happened, as jihadists were not behind that. Even some people dare to invert the narrative and accuse the Jewish people of committing 9/11. It doesn't get worse than this. It is a living legacy, and this is a jihad against civilization.
You know, Mossab, you mentioned the spreading conspiracy theories against the Jews, which over the years became much more common discourse. And if we look back to where it was sourced, it was Osama bin Laden himself who talked about Israel, who talked about Palestine as being one of the driving motivations for his massive destruction of America's financial center and governmental and parliamentary center in Washington. This is a moment of moral clarity to explain that the instrumentalization, the objectivization, the use of the Palestine structure to mask jihad is really what the West needs to understand now as jihad tears across the Middle East. And here we are in our Middle East trying to explain it. And you who come from the background, from the culture of jihad, and are here to help us understand what it really means for us today, 24 years after America suffered that jihad and continues to confront it today in America and in the Middle East and in Europe.
Right. Well, it's unfortunately that the situation after 9/11, I remember the world getting unified behind the United States in their war against terrorism. And President George W. Bush at that time was very clear. He said, you're with us or you're against us. You cannot be in between. He defined the lines. But after October 7, which basically jihad against civilization, jihad against not only Israel, it's jihad against democracy and the democratic values. And the Western values, I expected and I thought that the world would get united the same way that the world got united behind the United States to defeat jihadists. But today, unfortunately, and after October 7, the world got divided. And within no time, the narrative was inverted, and instead of helping Israel or backing Israel in their fight against jihadists, the world turned against Israel. And this is the difference between 9/11 and today, even though the similarity and the common ground between both attacks are jihad. Yes, I came from that background. And those who don't have money, they are required to fight by their words. And this is very, very clear legislation. It's a command. And no Muslim is above that. And all those who identify as Muslims and say, no, but we are not jihadists. No, they are jihadists. And they have been demonstrating this since the beginning of the war, this recent war, that by spreading propaganda, victim narrative, false accusations of genocide, apartheid, colonialism, and the root cause of it is their religion. And it's nothing but identity and property theft. The jihadists don't want only to destroy, they want to dominate. They want a developed land. They want to reap the fruits of other civilizations' work. And this is how Islam actually spread throughout the centuries, by invasion, by the means of the sword. And today, they find it much cheaper, much easier to spread jihad through diplomacy, exploiting democracy, exploiting freedoms of the West, and they have been spreading their indoctrination. Palestine and Islam are very similar concepts. Palestine depends on the destruction of Israel, and Islam depends on the destruction of civilization.
This is exactly what Osama bin Laden said in his letter to America months after the 9/11 atrocities. He said, and in subsequent messages, he said that jihad requires the destruction of the infidels against the Muslim world. This is bin Laden stating his doctrine against America, which is an eternal doctrine. It didn't end on 9/11, which is why we see that when the Hamas comes to America on October the 8th, which you called the Palestinian jihad against America and against the Jews, that America needs to understand that it is not a political problem that it is witnessing between Israel and the Palestinians or the PLO and Hamas. This is a continuation of the legacy of bin Laden according to his own words, statements, and doctrine.
Look, Palestinianism, whether people like it or not, is definitely inspired by the Middle Eastern culture. The Middle Eastern culture is shaped and crystallized by the Islamic belief system. And those who are in denial say, they are separate issues. They are lying, simply, or they just don't want to face the truth. The Palestinian indoctrination, the Palestinian ideology, depends on domination. This is why when they were given the huge part of the land, the historic land of Israel, they rejected coexistence with Israel. They rejected a two-state solution, an Arab state and a Jewish state. They simply did not want the Jews, period, canceling the Jewish right to the land. And why is that? Because they consider Israel, or what they call Palestine, which nothing but a Roman name. It's not even an Islamic name. You will not find it in the Quran at all or in any other Islamic source. It's borrowed only as a medium, as a device to eradicate and annihilate the Jewish people from the region, which basically the Jewish people have roots way before Islam was here. And it's the continuous attempts throughout the centuries, 1400 years of attempts to eradicate and ethnically cleanse the Jewish people from the region. Muhammad started that in the Arab Peninsula in the 7th century, and it continued after that through Umar, through the Amawites, through the Ottoman Empire, and later on it continued from Hajj Amin al-Husseini and Yasser Arafat and until today.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I wanted to mention that Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the first Grand Mufti that was appointed by the British colonialists that were entrusted with what they called British Mandate Palestine until 1947, was a close associate of the Nazis, and they had this complete cancellation, destruction, ideology, theology. As a matter of fact, the Hajj Amin, together with the Nazis, called for the total destruction, the bombing of Tel Aviv in those times. But beyond that, why we're talking about this today, connecting September 11th with October 7th, and the continuation of the jihad of October 7th until today, is that Arafat performed a trick. He bamboozled the West by dressing up a jihad mandate for him as a Muslim brother, as a human rights issue, as what he called Palestine, as an issue of human rights, of civil rights, in terms that the West could understand. He was told by North Vietnamese General Giap. He was advised by Romanian communist leader Ceausescu to change the way he presented what essentially was a jihadistic mandate into terms and language that the West could understand. And that's what perhaps has created this real confusion that today has cast the Palestinian issue, whether it's Hamas or whether it's PLO, as a political territorial issue, when it really just is a continuation of 9/11, October 7th, until today, September 11, 2025.
Yeah, definitely.
Hello, sorry. I had a call from my uncle and my auntie, and I had to talk to them because I haven't talked to them in days, and there was a lot of catching up to do. So I am floating in the bubbles, and I just punched in some stuff, and here I am. So I'm gonna, I've been rambling on for an hour and a half on the B channel, and I have a feeling the B channel is not gonna be happy. I don't even know if the D channel is gonna be happy with my content. But a lot of shit going on in the world, and I know a lot of people want to turn a blind eye to it and they don't want to hear it. And it's scary because when you have people trying to silence you and they're willing to kill you for that, that's pretty damn scary. I get it. So let's just kind of like end this one with the B channel. I will get back when I feel like it, but for now we're just gonna remind you that you're watching Octavia, Lonely Hearts, Panda's view of the world. It's only one view of the world, and there's a bazillion views of the world, and everybody's got their own opinion. So I just want to put it out there. Take what you can, and if you don't want it, don't You know, you don't have to get violent about it. That's not a way to make the world better. Okay? So sorry for the fact that I had to abandon my channel while I was broadcasting, but yeah, I don't think it really matters much since doesn't look like anybody joined in and said anything. But they might have watched. I understand a lot of people don't want to chat. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to listen. And, you know, listening is not a bad idea necessarily if you're willing to listen and then, you know, say, I don't agree, I do agree, I don't think I'm going to change your mind, so, you know, so that's it. That's the end. Okay? So I will end with the B channel after my little rant here, and I will continue on the D channel. So thanks, everybody. I'm not leaving the D channel yet, just the B channel. Y'all take care now.